The phone rang at 3:27 in the morning. I knew immediately something was wrong, because at that hour, no one calls unless someone is dead or about to die. "Mom!" Zara's voice was shaking so badly I almost didn't recognize it. My daughter, 16 years old, the child who had been so resilient that she broke her arm in 5th grade without shedding a single tear. "Zara? Where are you? What happened?" "Mom, I'm at the police station. My stepmother, Denise, hit me, but now she's telling them I attacked her first, and they believe her, Mom." I sprang out of bed, my heart pounding so hard it felt ready to explode. "What did you say?" "Which precinct? Are you hurt?" "Precinct 18, West Philly. Mom, I'm scared. They handcuffed me. They're looking at me like I'm a criminal. My blood is all over my hoodie, but they still believe her." I was already racing down the stairs before she finished speaking. I grabbed my car keys, my wallet, the coat slung over the sofa. "Don't say anything, do you hear me? I'm coming. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Don't say a single word to them until I arrive." "But Mom, she's talking to the police." "She's crying. She's a great actress. They're comforting her as if she's the victim." A choked sob escaped over the phone. "I think they're going to arrest me." My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. Because I knew the real reason for all this. 16 years ago, I made the wrong choice, choosing Caleb, the man with the beautiful smile and empty promises. Then 7 years later, when he left, I made a mistake again. I thought Zara needed a father, needed a complete home, and I handed my daughter over to a devil in an angel's disguise. The Benjamin Franklin Bridge cast yellow light upon the still river. I drive across this bridge every day to get to Penn Presby Hospital, where I work as a nurse. But tonight, every second spent on that bridge stretched into a century. Because I knew, when I reached the police station, I would see my daughter with blood all over her face. And with the instinct of a 12-year emergency room nurse, I also knew those injuries were not the first time. That fact was what terrified me the most. I slammed on the brakes outside Precinct 18 on Baltimore Avenue, an old red brick row house now converted into a police station. The fluorescent lights from inside shone out, cold and blinding. When I burst in, the sight before me made my heart stop. Zara, my little daughter, sat huddled on a metal bench, one hand cuffed with a plastic zip tie to the armrest. Dried blood stained her gray hoodie, the one I gave her for her birthday last year. Her left cheek was swollen, a bruise spreading out like an ink stain. Her right eye was so puffed up it was nearly closed. Her lower lip was torn in 2 places, blood trickling down her chin. But the thing that hurt me the most was her eyes. A look of fear, shame, and utter desperation. The look of a child who no longer believed anyone would save her. Across the room, Denise Harrington, Caleb's new wife, Zara's stepmother, was leaning against the front desk, one hand clutching her chest, the other wiping away tears. Her white shirt was immaculate, with only a small scratch on her cheek and a slight cut on her lip. Her hair was neat, her makeup still perfect, while my daughter looked like she had crawled out of hell. A young police officer, his name tag read E. Parker, was taking notes, nodding along to Denise's every word. Occasionally, he lightly patted her shoulder, as if consoling a genuinely wounded victim. "She went crazy, sir," Denise said in a trembling voice. "Her daughter came at me with a kitchen knife. I was only trying to defend myself. Look at my face." I couldn't hold back any longer. "Zara!" My voice echoed throughout the room. All eyes immediately turned. My daughter lifted her head, tears streaming down her bruised cheeks. "Mom." The way she called me, small, choked up like a child lost in a storm, shattered my heart. I strode quickly toward Zara, but Officer Parker spread his arms to block me. "Ma'am, you can't." "I am her mother," I cut him off, my voice cold as steel. "And she is 16 years old. I demand to see my daughter immediately." Behind the counter, a black woman with braided hair stood up. I recognized her immediately, Detective Natasha Green. Last year, she was admitted to Penn Presby with an injury sustained while on duty, and I was the one who stitched her wound. Her eyes lit up recognition upon seeing me. "Amara Williams?" she asked, her voice cautious. "Yes, and I want to know why my daughter is handcuffed, while that woman," I pointed directly at Denise, "is being treated like a victim." Detective Green looked at me, then at Zara, then at Denise, and in that moment, I saw her gaze change. "Parker, cut the zip tie off the girl. Now." "But Detective, protocol." "Right now, Parker." The young officer fumbled for his knife, cutting the tie, his hand trembling slightly. Detective Green walked closer to me, lowering her voice. "Ms. Williams, something isn't right with this case." When we arrived at the scene, the two stories didn't match up. "And your daughter? She recorded the whole thing." My heart stopped. "Recorded?" "Yes. She hit record on her phone when she called 911. 14 minutes. The audio is very clear." Detective Green looked deep into my eyes, and what's on that recording is nothing like what that woman just said. In that moment, I knew. Tonight, all the lies would collapse. But before the truth could be revealed, I needed to hear it from my daughter's own mouth about everything she had endured for all these months that I, a mother, had been completely unaware of. In the next part, you will hear Zara recount the whole truth and the recording that silenced the entire police precinct. Don't look away, because that is the moment all the masks start to fall. That April, West Philly was awash in cherry blossoms. The red brick row houses along Walnut Street seemed draped in a gentle layer of pink. Zara was 16, preparing for the SATs, dreaming of going to Penn State. And I, Amara Williams, 38, thought I had finally made one right decision in my life. Caleb, my ex-husband, had been remarried for 8 months. His new wife, Denise Harrington, 42, worked as an accountant for a firm in Center City. Golden hair, always impeccably dressed, with a sweet smile that looked like it belonged on an advertisement. The first time I met Denise, I even liked her. Denise brought homemade cookies to my house, saying, "I never want to replace you as Zara's mother. I just want to be her friend." It sounded so sincere that I believed her. When Caleb asked if Zara could live with him and Denise on weekends, I agreed. My small apartment in University City only had 1 bedroom, while Caleb's house in Spruce Hill was spacious, had a backyard, and was closer to her school. "She needs space to study," Caleb said, "and Denise is a great cook. She'll like it." Zara said nothing, just bit her lip, looking down at the floor. I could tell she didn't want to, but she understood I worked night shifts at the hospital, often returning exhausted at 7 in the morning. She didn't want to cause me more worry. "Yes, okay, Mom," she whispered. "I'll try." During that time, I thought I was living in a peaceful family photograph. The pictures Zara sent: dinner under soft yellow light, Denise smiling brightly behind her, Caleb raising a toast. Everything looked too perfect, so perfect that you didn't want to blink, for fear it would all disappear. The first month, everything went smoothly. Zara came home every weekend, telling stories about the meals, the study sessions, and how Denise helped her with math. Caleb sent pictures, the two of them baking, shopping together. I felt relieved, thinking that finally my daughter had a stable family. But in the 5th week, Zara returned with a bruise on her wrist. "What happened to you?" I asked while bandaging the injury. "I tripped on the stairs, Mom." "It's nothing." The bruise was round, deeply indented, as if someone had gripped her tightly. But I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe everything was fine. In the 8th week, Zara came home with swollen eyes. "Were you crying?" I asked, hugging her and stroking her hair. "I just miss you. I'm not used to being there." "Then come home and stay with me." "No, I'm fine. Dad said I need time to get used to it. He said, if I come back too soon, I won't grow up." I should have noticed right then. Her voice was trembling, her eyes were avoiding mine, her hands were clutching her clothes. But I didn't. I was working 12 hours a day, paying off credit card debt from the divorce. I was too exhausted to see the truth. In the 3rd month, Zara stopped coming home. "I'm busy with school, Mom. Come home next week then." Then the week after it was, "I have an important test." "I'm a little tired, don't worry, Mom." I called Caleb. "How is Zara? Why isn't she coming to visit me anymore?" "Don't overreact," he replied, his voice cold. "She's growing up, she's busy. Don't be selfish and force her to travel back and forth every week." "Did you just call me selfish?" "I'm telling you to let her have her own life. She's not a 10-year-old anymore." I wanted to smash the phone in my hand, but then the weaker part of me whispered, maybe he's right. Maybe I really am clinging too much. In the 4th month, things started to spiral out of control. One evening, I dropped by Caleb's house unannounced, intending to give Zara a new coat I had bought. When I rang the doorbell, Denise opened the door, her face pale. "Amara? Why? Are you here?" "I want to see my daughter." "Zara is studying upstairs. She's very busy." Just then, the sound of something shattering came from inside the house. Then a small, choked cry. "Ouch!" I pushed Denise aside and rushed in. Zara stood at the bottom of the stairs, clutching her left wrist, tears streaming out. On the floor were pieces of a broken plate. "Zara! What's wrong?" She looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "Mom! You shouldn't be here. You're hurt. Let me take you to the hospital." Denise walked in, her voice chillingly calm. "Zara broke a plate." I was just about to bandage her up, but I saw clearly that wasn't a scrape from broken fragments. It was a bruise, red and swollen around her wrist, as if someone had squeezed it hard. "I am Zara's mother. I decide whether my daughter needs to go to the hospital or not." Denise looked at me, her gaze cold, sharp as steel. For the first time, I saw her true nature. But Zara shook her head, her voice trembling. "Mom, I'm fine. I was just clumsy. Please go home." "Zara, go home. You always overreact. You always think I'm weak. I hate you." Those words felt like a knife slicing through my heart. I stood frozen, still holding the coat bag, watching her tremble, and Denise standing behind her, smiling, a look of triumph. "If you want me to go, I will go," I said, my voice catching in my throat. "But remember this, Zara. I'm here. Whenever you need me, I will come." I left that house with a broken heart, and I didn't know. That was the last time I would speak to Zara for the next 2 months. After that night, Denise completely separated Zara from me. Her phone was always busy. Text messages went unanswered. Emails received no reply. I called Caleb. "How is Zara?" "I can't reach her." "Zara doesn't want to talk to you. She's mad at you. Just leave her alone." "Caleb, something is wrong. She was injured." "Zara is just clumsy. Denise told me everything. Stop creating drama. If you keep harassing us, I will seek a restraining order." I wanted to scream, but I knew if I made a scene, I would truly lose her. So I waited. I stood outside Zara's school gate every afternoon after dismissal, hoping to see her. But Denise always got there first. Always pulled her into the car, slamming the door shut before I could get close. Once I ran after the car yelling, "Zara! Look at me!" Through the car window, I saw her face. She turned away, covering her face with her hand, and I saw clearly the dark bruise on her arm. In that moment, I knew I had no other choice. I went to see lawyer Rebecca Cole, small office on Market Street. "I need to regain custody," I said, my voice shaking. "I think my daughter is being abused." Ms. Cole looked at me, her eyes sad. "Do you have evidence?" "I saw a bruise." "Is that all? No photos, no records, no statement?" I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Miss Williams. The court won't accept it. The other party can claim you're jealous, that you're gaslighting. You need concrete proof. But how can I get proof when my daughter isn't allowed to see me?" She sighed. "That's the most painful thing in cases like this. The victim often can't save themselves." I left the office empty-handed and desperate. Then came the night of October 27th, and the phone rang. 3:27 in the morning. Zara's voice trembled in the receiver. "Mom?" I'm at the police station. Now, standing inside the West Philly Police Precinct, looking at my daughter, bloody and afraid, I finally understood. All the times Zara said, "I'm fine," all the unanswered messages, all the headshakes avoiding my gaze, it wasn't because she didn't want to see me. It was because she was trying to protect me from a truth she thought I couldn't bear, that she had been living in hell, and I, her mother, had personally pushed her into it. Tonight, the truth has begun to emerge, from the very recording that Detective Green is now playing in the next room. But what is on it is not just the cry of a young girl. It is an accusation and an awakening for the entire system. Stay with me, because the next part, the truth in the recording, will take your breath away. Detective Natasha Green led Zara and me into a small interrogation room. 4 gray walls, a metal table, 3 plastic chairs. The smell of stale coffee and bleach combined was unpleasantly sharp. Zara sat down, still clutching her hoodie tightly. She was shaking uncontrollably, even though the room wasn't cold. I sat close beside her, grasping her hand. It was icy cold. Detective Green placed an iPad on the table. "Zara," she said gently, "can you tell us what happened?" She glanced at me. In her eyes was fear, shame, and a silent question. "Do you believe me?" I squeezed her hand. "Mom's here now. Just tell them." Zara took a deep breath and began. "Tonight, I was studying in my room, around 11 o'clock. Dad was away on a business trip to Pittsburgh, not coming back until morning. It was just me and Denise in the house." Her voice dropped when she mentioned the name. I went down to the kitchen to get water. Denise was there, holding a glass of wine. She looked at me in a way. I knew something was about to happen. "What way?" Detective Green asked. She smiled, but her eyes weren't smiling. Her eyes looked like a cat looking at a mouse before pouncing. My stomach tightened. She said, "We need to talk tonight, Zara. About your attitude, about you trying to contact your mother." I said I hadn't done anything. But she picked up my phone. She had rummaged through my bag that afternoon and read out loud the texts I sent to you. Zara turned to look at me, tears welling up. "I did send texts to you, but Denise deleted them all before you received them. Over the past 2 months, I sent over 20 messages. Mom, please pick me up. Mom, please call the police." She deleted everything. The world collapsed before my eyes. 2 months. 2 months my daughter had been pleading for help, and I hadn't known. She called me spoiled, said I was destroying my dad's marriage. Then she slapped me. Zara raised her hand to her cheek as if she could still feel the blow. But this time she didn't stop. She grabbed my hair, dragged me to the sink, and slammed my head down onto the stone counter. Once, twice, 3 times. Her voice broke. I fought back, but she was much stronger. I screamed. She covered my mouth. She said, "No one will believe you. Your mother abandoned you. Your father only loves me. You're just a lying little girl." I gasped for air. I could only hold her, feeling her body convulse with shivers. "I thought I was going to die," Zara whispered. "I thought this time she would kill me." So I remembered what you always told me. If you're in danger, call 911 and record the call. When Denise let go of me to grab a towel to wipe the blood, I dialed 911 and hit record. I put the phone in my hoodie pocket. Detective Green nodded. Thanks to that, we have enough evidence. She opened the iPad and pressed play. The operator's voice. 911, what is your emergency? Zara's trembling voice. Please help me. My stepmother is hitting me. I'm at 2847 Spruce Street, West Philly. Please hurry. Then a scream. The sound of something crashing. Denise's voice, low and harsh. How dare you call the police? How dare you? The sound of impact against flesh. Zara crying, gasping for breath. No, don't. It hurts so much. Denise's voice, cold as ice. No one will believe you. I'll say you attacked me with a knife. You're crazy, just like your mother. You'll be locked up, and Caleb will be mine. A loud thud, the sound of a door opening, the rhythm of stumbling footsteps. The call ended at 11:51. I couldn't look anymore, couldn't listen anymore. I covered my face, trying to swallow the sobs rising from the depths of my chest. My daughter. While I was working the night shift at the hospital and thought she was safe, she was in hell. There's more, Detective Green said quietly. She swiped the screen, opening a video clip. This is the building hallway camera, provided by the management. The frame started at 11:42. The door to apartment 2847 opened. Denise pulled Zara in, gripping her arm so tightly that the child's face was contorted in pain. Zara struggled, her mouth open as if trying to scream for help, but Denise covered her mouth, pushing her inside. The door closed. 43 seconds later, the hallway lights went dark. Someone had flipped a switch. At 11:51, the door flew open. Zara stumbled out, her hoodie hanging off one shoulder, blood streaming down her face. She held her stomach and rushed down the stairs. The video stopped. The ground floor camera recorded Zara running down to call 911 from a payphone, Detective Green said. Her cell phone died after the recording. She looked at me, her voice serious. We also checked Zara's medical records. 2 ER visits in 4 months, once for a wrist sprain, once for a cracked rib due to falling down the stairs. Both times Denise Harrington was present. I remembered. Both times Caleb called me saying, Zara fell, she's fine. And when I wanted to go, he said, no need, Denise can handle it. Don't make a fuss. And I listened to him. I abandoned my child to her tormentor. The doctor was suspicious both times, Detective Green continued. But Denise claimed Zara was rebellious and self-harming for attention. Without clear evidence, the hospital couldn't file a report. She closed the iPad. It's different now. We have Denise's voice threatening her. We have video. We have medical records. And most importantly, Zara's statement. Detective Green stood up. Denise Harrington will be arrested tonight. Charges: felony aggravated assault on a minor, unlawful imprisonment, witness intimidation, and filing a false police report. No bail. I looked up, tears still flowing. What about Caleb? Detective Green sighed. Mr. Caleb Williams claims ignorance, says he travels frequently. We are looking into potential complicity, but we don't have enough evidence yet. I gritted my teeth. Ignorance, because he chose not to know, because he chose to believe his new wife, not his own daughter, because he was weak. Mom, Zara called softly, her voice tiny. I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner, but I was scared. Scared of what, honey? Scared you wouldn't believe me. Scared people would say I was lying. Denise told me no one believes a 16-year-old against a reputable adult. She said she'd hire a good lawyer and turn me into the troubled child. And I believed her. I knelt down, gripping her shoulders. Listen to me. I will always believe you. Even if the whole world turns its back on you, I will never do that. Do you hear me? Zara nodded, then hugged me tightly and burst into tears. This time, she didn't have to cry alone. Outside, the fluorescent lights were still stark white. Hurried footsteps, the rustling of papers, the soft whir of the printer. In the small gray room, my daughter and I held each other close. And for the first time since the night began, Zara's breathing slowed down. Outside, a commotion arose. Denise's shrill voice. "I didn't do anything. That girl attacked me. You have to believe me. I'm the victim." Then Officer Parker's voice, this time firm. "Denise Harrington, you are under arrest for child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, and witness intimidation. You have the right to remain silent." Denise screamed like a wounded animal. "No! You can't do this! I'll call my lawyer! I'll sue everyone! Caleb! Caleb, save me!" But Caleb wasn't there. He was on a flight back from Pittsburgh, and when he landed, he would receive my message. "Your daughter almost died tonight. Because of your wife. And because of you. Never contact us again." Detective Green opened the door. "Ms. Williams, we will take Zara to the hospital for a full examination and to photograph all her injuries as evidence." I nodded. "Penn Presby? I work there. I know the best doctors." "Of course." In the hallway, I saw Denise being handcuffed. Her white shirt was crumpled, her makeup smeared. She saw Zara, her eyes blazing with hatred. "You think you won? You think this is over? You're wrong. I'll get out, and next time—" I stepped forward, standing between her and my daughter. "There won't be a next time. You'll be in prison for a very long time. By the time you get out, we will be gone from your life, and you will have to live with the guilt of harming an innocent child." Denise sneered. "Guilt? I don't feel any guilt." In that moment, I knew I was looking into the bottomless pit of a person who had lost all humanity. Officer Parker pulled Denise away. The screaming faded as the door closed, and for the first time in that endless night, I saw Zara sigh with relief. Penn Presbyterian Medical Center was deserted at 4:30 in the morning. The hallways I routinely walked through for work suddenly felt foreign under the faint yellow light. Zara sat in a wheelchair, hospital policy, even though she could walk, still gripping my hand tightly. Detective Natasha Green walked right behind us, carrying a clear plastic bag containing Zara's blood-stained hoodie. Evidence. Now, everything was evidence. The night nurse, Jennifer, a friend of mine, saw us, and her face went pale immediately. "Amara? What's going on? Oh my God, Zara!" "She's been abused," I stated plainly, my voice not allowed to shake. "Call Dr. Rashida Coleman. Call her right now." Jennifer didn't ask further questions. She ran to the phone. Emergency room Bay 3. The white light was glaring, the antiseptic smell cold, the sound of machinery regular. I helped Zara onto the bed, taking off the bloodied hoodie. Inside was a white t-shirt, also soaked at the shoulder and chest. "Where does it hurt?" I asked, my hands trembling slightly as I folded her shirt. "Everywhere, Mom." When the shirt was removed, everything became clear. I had to bite my lip to keep from crying out. Red and purple bruises covered her body like a map of pain. Both arms clearly bore 5 finger marks on each side, where Denise had squeezed her. On the left side of her ribs was a massive contusion, dark purple turning black. Worst of all were the old injuries. Faded yellow streaks on her back, weeks old. A small scar on her right shoulder, healed but still red. And on her side, a rectangular bruise, as if she'd been hit with the hard edge of something. "Zara," my voice choked up. "These marks, since when?" She looked down at the floor. "The one on my back was in June. Denise pushed me down the stairs. The one on my shoulder was in July. She hit me with a wooden ruler. And the one on my side, last week, she used the edge of a cutting board because I didn't clean the dishes properly." Each sentence was like a dagger twisting in my heart. 5 months. My daughter had been living in hell for 5 months. The door flew open. Dr. Rashida Coleman walked in, hair pulled back, a blue scrub top hastily put on under her white coat. We had worked together for 8 years. She knew Zara since she was 8. Seeing Zara, she stopped dead in her tracks. "Oh my God!" She walked to the bed, put on gloves, her eyes never leaving the injuries. "Zara, can you tell me what happened?" Zara recounted the events. This time her voice was calmer, as if she had told the story too many times in one night, but I could still hear the underlying tremor. Dr. Coleman examined each injury, took pictures, measured dimensions, and meticulously recorded notes. She paused at the head injury. "You were slammed against a hard surface 3 times?" "Yes, the marble kitchen countertop." She gently touched the scalp area, and Zara winced. "There are signs of a mild concussion. Do you feel nauseous, dizzy, or lightheaded?" "Yes, my head hurts a lot right now. We'll do a CT scan to make sure there's no internal bleeding in the brain." Then she turned to me. In her eyes was pity and also anger and determination. "Amara, these old marks. Zara is right, isn't she? This wasn't the first time." I nodded, unable to speak. She let out a heavy sigh. "She has an old fractured rib on the left side, healed but improperly. Her right wrist had a severe sprain. The ligaments are still swollen. And this." She pointed to a small mark on Zara's arm. "A cigarette burn, about 2 months old. The world spun before my eyes. I had to clutch the side of the bed to keep from collapsing." Denise smoked. I remembered the first time I saw her, standing outside Caleb's porch smoking. "Zara, pull your pants down just a little, please," Dr. Coleman said softly. "I need to check further." Zara hesitated, looking at me. I took her hand. "It's okay. Dr. Coleman is here to help you." Zara complied. More bruises on her thighs and a long scar on her knee. "What is this mark?" Denise pushed me into the edge of a glass table. In August, the doctor took more notes, removed her gloves, and sat down at Zara's eye level. "Zara, I need you to understand this. None of this is your fault. You are a victim of systemic, prolonged, and very serious abuse. That woman was supposed to protect you, but she harmed you." Tears streamed down Zara's face. "But I should have spoken up sooner." "No," the doctor said firmly. "You were psychologically manipulated. That is also abuse. They make victims believe no one will trust them, that they deserve it, that there is no way out. You were incredibly brave to call 911. You saved yourself." She looked at me. "I have to report this to the Department of Children's Services. This is mandatory. They will open an investigation." "I understand," I said. "Do everything necessary." Zara was wheeled away for the CT scan. I sat alone in the room. Detective Green stepped out to handle paperwork. Jennifer brought me a cup of coffee, but I couldn't drink it. I just looked at my hands, hands that had saved so many lives in this very place, yet failed to save my own daughter, failed to see that she was slowly dying right before my eyes. My phone vibrated. Caleb. "Why did you call me at 3 a.m? "What is it?" Denise isn't answering her phone. I stared at the text message for a long time, then pressed call. "Amara? Are you all right? Zara almost died tonight. Your wife has been hitting her for 5 months. Tonight she slammed her head against the countertop 3 times. She is in the ER right now, covered in blood and bruises." Silence. Then Caleb's shaky voice. "What?" "No. Denise would never. The police have evidence." I cut him off. "Recording, camera footage, hospital records. Your wife is being held for felony child abuse." "That's impossible. Denise isn't like that. Zara must be lying." And I snapped. "My daughter is lying. She's 16, bruised, cracked ribs, a concussion, and you call her a liar? Do you know about the cigarette burn on her arm? The stitches on her head? Do you know she begged me for help for 2 months, but your wife deleted all the messages?" Caleb was silent, only his heavy breathing audible. "You didn't know because you chose not to know," I said, my voice cold. "You chose a strange woman over your own daughter. You are a failed father. Amara, don't say another word. From now on, you are no longer Zara's father. No visits, no calls, no contact. My lawyer will be working with you on relinquishing your custody rights. If you don't agree, I will take you to court so the entire world can know how your child was tortured for 5 months. You can't. I can, and I will, because my daughter deserves a real father. I hung up. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor outside the hallway was like a metronome. The cold white light cast the shadows of a mother and daughter onto the wall. The night in the ER was long like a never-ending fax. Page after page, evidence after evidence, name after name, time stamp after time stamp, nailing the truth into reality. Zara was wheeled back in. She was exhausted. Dr. Coleman accompanied her. No internal bleeding in the brain. But the concussion is clear. She needs at least a week of rest, limited screen time, avoid bright light, close monitoring. She handed me a sheet of paper. Here's the prescription for pain medication. And this is the name of a trauma psychologist, Dr. Monique Davis. Zara will need PTSD treatment as soon as possible. I took the paper, nodding. Thank you, Rashida. She held my hand. Amara, you are doing the right thing. Zara will be okay. She has you by her side. That's the most important thing. We left the hospital. The sun was fully up. The sun rose behind the buildings of University City. Commuters, students going to school, the normal life of normal people. As for us, we would never be the same again. In the car ride home, Zara leaned her head against the window. The early sunlight shone in, making the bruises even clearer. Mom, she said softly. Yes, honey? I'm scared to sleep. Scared of what? Scared of dreaming about her. Scared of waking up and finding out it was all a dream, and I still have to live there. I reached over and gripped her hand. You don't have to live there anymore. You will live with me, forever. And I promise, no one is allowed to hurt you ever again. Zara squeezed my hand tightly. You promise? I promise. Arriving at our small apartment on Walnut Street, I helped Zara into bed. She hugged her pillow like a lifesaver. I sat beside her, stroking her hair until she drifted off to sleep. For the first time in 5 months, my daughter slept a nightmare-free sleep, because she knew, when she opened her eyes, her mother would still be here. And finally, she was safe. I sat on the old sofa in the apartment, holding my 5th cup of cold coffee, my eyes glued to the bedroom door where Zara was resting. If I heard her stir or gasp, I immediately jumped up to check on her. This happened 3 times in 2 hours. The 3rd time, Zara opened her eyes, her voice still drowsy. Haven't you slept, Mom? I slept, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I just wanted to see if you needed anything. She looked at me, her eyes knowing full well I was lying. You've been sitting here since morning, haven't you? I didn't answer, just sat down on the edge of the bed, gently stroking her hair. I'm afraid that if I close my eyes, when I open them, last night will just be a dream, I confessed. I'm afraid you'll still be there, still being harmed, and I won't have saved you. Zara squeezed my hand. But you did save me. You came to the police station. You believed me. That's the most important thing. My tears fell, wetting the pillow. But I came too late. 5 months. You had to endure it alone. It's not your fault, she said, her voice more resolute than I expected. Denise is very clever. She makes everyone believe her. Even I almost believed her when she said no one would trust me. She sat up, leaning against the headboard, wincing in pain, but trying to hold steady. You know, there were nights I almost gave up. I thought it would be easier to just be quiet, to accept that this was my life. But then I remembered you. Remembered me? I remembered when I was 8 and a boy was bullying me. I cried and wanted to quit school. You hugged me and said, "Don't let anyone silence you. Your voice matters. You deserve to be heard." I never forgot that. I remembered too. The next day I went to the school to talk to the teacher and the principal. The boy was suspended. Back then, I protected her. This time, I wasn't present. I kept that phrase in my heart, Zara continued. Every time I was hit, I repeated, my voice matters. I deserve to be heard. That's why I called 911. That's why I hit record. You taught me not to be silent. I held her crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, honey. You don't need to apologize. She hugged me back. You always taught me the right thing. That's why I'm alive. In the afternoon, Detective Natasha Green stopped by. She brought a thick file and new information. Denise Harrington was denied bail, she said, sitting down in the chair I pulled over. The court assessed her as a flight risk and a threat to witnesses, so she will be held until trial. When is the trial? I asked. It's not certain, perhaps a few months. But with the volume of evidence, I think her lawyer will advise her to take a plea. She opened the file. We found more things. In Denise's phone, there were dozens of messages she deleted from Zara's device, texts your daughter sent to you begging for help. There's one text. She glanced at Zara. Do you want me to read it? Zara nodded, her face tense. Detective Green read, her voice soft and strained. Mom, please believe me. I'm not lying. Denise hits me whenever Dad is away. Yesterday she burned my hand with a cigarette because I forgot to wash the dishes. I'm so scared. I want to come home to you. Please pick me up. I promise to be good. Please. She paused, blinking quickly. This text was sent on September 15th. Denise deleted it after 3 minutes. I couldn't breathe. That day I was working a night shift, my phone on silent in the locker. I checked it in the morning, no new messages, because Denise had deleted them. How many messages in total? I asked, my voice shaky. 23 texts over 3 months, all deleted before you could receive them. She closed the file, speaking slowly and clearly. I've been on the force for 12 years, and I've seen many abuse cases. But the level of manipulation and systemic cruelty by Denise Harrington is among the worst. She turned to Zara. You are very brave. Not every child could do what you did. Zara looked down at her hands. I just want it all to end. It will end, Detective Green said. And when it ends, she will go to prison for a very long time. The sunset light streamed through the window, painting the room a warm yellow. Zara and I sat in silence for a long time. Mom, Zara called softly. Yes, honey? Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you still love Dad? I hadn't expected her to ask about Caleb now. No, I said truthfully. I don't love your father anymore. Haven't for a long time. Then why did you let me live with him? The question I had been dreading since last night. Because I thought it was the best thing for you, I said, my voice trembling. My apartment is small. I work night shifts. I thought you needed space. You needed a complete family. I thought I was helping you. Tears flowed freely. But I was wrong. I put you in danger because I thought material things were more important than love. I was completely wrong. Zara shook her head. You weren't wrong. You just wanted the best. Denise is too good. She made everyone think she was good. The first few weeks I believed it too. She cooked well, asked about me, bought me things I liked. I thought I had a normal family. Then what happened? The second week, I spilled orange juice on the rug. She slapped me right away. Then she hugged me and apologized, said she was stressed. I believed it was just once, but then a second time, a third time, and it became a habit. Each time she blamed me for being disobedient, ungrateful, not listening. Gradually, I started to believe it. I held her close, feeling every beat of her heart. It was not your fault. Never. Do you hear me? I know, she whispered, but it took me a long time to truly believe it. Night fell. Zara slept again. I sat curled up on the sofa in the darkness when my phone vibrated. An unknown number. Hello? Miss Williams? This is Monique Davis, the trauma psychologist. Dr. Rashida Coleman transferred Zara's file. I sat up straight. Yes, I plan to call you tomorrow morning. I know it's late, but I wanted to reach out early. For cases like Zara's, early intervention is crucial. When can we meet? Tomorrow? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if both of you are ready. We'll be there. Good. Ms. Williams, the road ahead won't be easy. Zara has severe physical and emotional trauma. There will be good days and bad days, but with the right support, she will get through this. I will do whatever it takes, I said firmly. I believe you will. I read Dr. Coleman's report. You are a good mother. Don't let guilt stop you from helping your child now. I sat quietly in the darkness after hanging up. Guilt was eating me alive. Every time I looked at Zara's face, every time I saw her wince in pain, I thought I should have known. But Monique Davis was right. Guilt wouldn't help Zara now. She needed a stable mother to guide her through the darkness. And I would be that mother, no matter how long it took, no matter how hard it was. I would walk with her every step until she could stand firmly on her own 2 feet. I stood up, went into the room, and sat by the bed. In the moonlight filtering through the window, Zara's face looked more peaceful. The bruises were still there, but the tension had eased. She was sleeping, a deep sleep, unguarded, not startled. The sleep of a child who knows she is safe. I stroked her hair, whispering, I promise. From now on, I will always be here. I won't leave you alone again, and I will fight so what happened to you doesn't happen to any other child. That was the promise I would keep, not just for Zara, but for all the silent children out there, waiting for someone to believe them. A dark room, the sound of the clock ticking away the minutes. Outside the window frame, the streetlights swept across the ceiling like pale yellow brushstrokes. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, a new door will open. Therapy, evidence, justice. Stay with me, because from here, the counterattack truly begins. Dr. Monique Davis's office was on the 3rd floor of an old building on South Street, near the Italian market. The waiting room was small, painted pale blue, with a faint scent of lavender. Zara sat huddled, her hands tightly clasped. Before leaving the apartment, she had changed her clothes 5 times to hide the bruises. Finally, she settled on a long-sleeved hoodie and ripped jeans. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say what you feel comfortable with. I held her hand. No one is forcing you to tell everything in the first session. The door opened. A brown woman in her 40s, with long braids, round glasses, a warm orange sweater, and jeans, friendly like a neighbor, smiled. Zara? I'm Dr. Davis. You can call me Monique. Shall we go in? Zara glanced at me. Do you want to come in with her? I asked. Monique gently shook her head. For the first session, I want to speak with Zara privately. I will invite you in for the last 15 minutes to discuss the treatment plan together. Zara stood up, still tightly holding my hand. I'll be right here, I said. Just call and I'll come in. She nodded, let go of my hand, and followed Monique inside. 45 minutes passed like 45 years. I sat in the chair, opening a magazine without being able to read a single word. Every sound that seeped through the thick door made me jump, ready to rush in. There were no screams, no crying, only a low, steady sound of conversation. The door opened. Zara walked out, her eyes red but looking relieved. Monique motioned for me to come in. I sat on the gray armchair. Zara sat beside me, looking down at her shoes. Monique sat opposite, opening her notebook. Ms. Williams, your daughter was very brave today. Zara shared some extremely difficult things. I looked at my daughter. She kept her head down. Monique continued, her voice serious yet warm. Zara is showing symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Recurring nightmares, jumping at sudden noises, a persistent feeling of dread, all completely normal after what she went through. We will work together to process the trauma. I use EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, a method proven effective with abuse victims. At the same time, I will teach her grounding techniques so Zara can feel safe in the present moment. She looked at me. The most important thing is support at home. Your role is huge. I need you to do 3 things. First, create a safe space. No pressure, no high expectations. There will be bad days, days she won't go to school or do homework. That's normal. Second, listen without judgment. When Zara wants to talk, just listen. Don't rush to fix things, don't say everything will be fine. Sometimes she just needs to be heard. Third, you must also take care of yourself. I see the guilt in the way you look at your daughter. If you are exhausted, you cannot support Zara. You need sleep, you need to eat, and if necessary, you should also see a professional. I can refer you to a colleague. Her words were like arrows hitting their mark. I intended to say I was fine, but I wasn't. I hadn't slept peacefully since Zara called. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her covered in blood, handcuffed, with that desperate look. I will consider counseling, I said quietly. Monique smiled. That's already the first step. She turned to Zara. Next week, we'll meet twice, 50 minutes each session. Here is my private number. You can call anytime. Zara looked up, surprised. Really? Really? You are not alone anymore, Zara. Now you have a whole team standing behind you. On the drive home, Zara silently looked out the window. West Philly was bustling during rush hour. The red brick row houses floated by in the warm golden sunset. How do you feel? I asked after a moment. Strange, she replied after a while. How strange? Dr. Davis asked me what I remembered. The first time Denise hit me, how I felt then. I thought I would cry or be scared, but I didn't. I just felt tired, like carrying something heavy for months, and now I'm allowed to put it down. I took her hand. That's a good start. But she said I'll have to tell the story many times, each time with more detail, for my brain to process it. I'm not sure I'm strong enough. You are already strong, I affirmed. You called 911 when you were attacked. You recorded it. You survived 5 months of hell. You are strong enough. Zara looked at her wrist. The bruises were still visible around the radial bone. Sometimes I don't feel strong. Sometimes I just want to disappear. My heart stopped. Have you ever thought about hurting yourself? She was silent for a very long time. Yes, she finally whispered. Once, in September, after Denise burned my hand, I stood on the 3rd-floor balcony, looked down at the street, and thought, if I jumped, everything would end. I couldn't drive any further. I pulled the car over to the curb. Why didn't you jump? I asked, my voice trembling. Because I thought of you. If I died, you would hurt. You would wonder why I didn't tell you. You would blame yourself. I didn't want you to be like that. I love you too much. I hugged her tightly, as if wanting to merge her into myself, to shield her from all the pain. Don't ever think like that again, I choked out. You are the reason I live. If you disappeared, I couldn't go on. I'm sorry. No. I held her face, looking straight into her eyes, which looked like mine. You have nothing to be sorry for. The fault lies with Denise, with your father, with a system that failed, not with you. I wiped her tears. From now on, I will make sure you never have to feel like disappearing again. I promise. That night, when Zara was sleeping, I sat in the darkness, thinking about what she had just said. She had once stood on the balcony, thinking about jumping, and I hadn't known. I opened my contacts and called the lawyer, Rebecca Cole. "Miss Cole? This is Amara Williams. We met last month." "Amara, I heard the news. I'm so sorry, and so glad Zara is safe. What do you need?" "I want to file a lawsuit," I said, my voice cold and firm. "Sue Caleb Williams for negligence leading to my child's abuse. I want to terminate his custody rights and ensure he can never come near Zara." There was a beat of silence on the other end. "Do you have evidence that Mr. Williams knew?" "He didn't know because he chose not to know. The injuries, the hospital records. He was present, but chose to believe his wife over his daughter. Isn't that negligence?" "It can be argued," Rebecca considered. "This case is difficult, but with the criminal evidence against Denise Harrington, we have a chance." "Then do it, whatever the cost." "Understood. I will prepare the documents. Let's meet next week to finalize the details." I hung up, feeling slightly lighter. Denise would go to prison. Caleb would pay the price. But deep down, I knew punishing the guilty was just the first step. The hardest step was helping Zara trust the world again, that not everyone wanted to hurt her, that she deserved to be loved, protected, and respected. And that would be my job, every day, every hour, until it became a natural reflex in her. I stood up, went into the room. Zara was sleeping, hugging her pillow, small and fragile. I sat down on the floor, leaning against the wall, deciding to stay all night. She needed to know. Whether it was midnight or after a nightmare, when she woke up, her mother would still be here, always. An EMDR appointment scheduled, a lawsuit filed, and a mother's promise just signed in tears. Ahead, facing justice, dialoguing with the past, confronting Caleb. Don't look away. When the truth steps into court, who will stand by Zara? 2 weeks passed in a blur. Zara took a temporary leave of absence from school with a note from Dr. Rashida Coleman. Principal Patricia Martinez called me, her voice sincere. Zara could take as much time off as she needed. The school would send assignments, but with no pressure. The issue was not the homework. One morning, Zara showed me her phone, her hand shaking. On the West Philly community page, the news of Denise Harrington's arrest spread rapidly. Beneath the post, there was sympathy, but also much skepticism. Why didn't anyone find out sooner? Where was the biological mother? Kids make things up these days. I turned off the screen. Don't read it. They don't know anything. Zara looked at me, her voice hollow. But why didn't you see it sooner? I hugged her. Because I trusted the wrong person. Because Denise was good at hiding it. Because the system failed. It is not your fault. The next day, an email arrived from the school mentioning the unwanted media attention, proposing a meeting with a counselor. I called back immediately. Student safety is the priority, Mrs. Martinez explained. And my daughter is the victim, I replied, keeping my voice steady. When Zara returns, I expect the school to protect her from all judgment. If anyone makes her feel unsafe, I will pursue it to the fullest extent. I hung up before my emotions spilled out. That evening, waiting for Zara during her therapy session with Dr. Monique Davis, I received a text message from Officer Eli Parker. He apologized for his initial misjudgment, said he was undergoing new training on abuse recognition, and proposed implementing Zara's protocol to ensure all child abuse reports are rigorously investigated without prejudice against the reporter. He asked for permission to name it after Zara because she deserves the recognition. I read the message, my eyes stinging with unshed tears. The child who once believed no one would listen was now becoming the reason for procedural change. Zara walked out, tired but lighter. On the way home, she said, I want to do something useful. I don't want to tell the whole story, but I want to write about why victims don't speak up. You don't have to rush. But if I don't speak, who will? If my writing helps one child dare to speak up, it's worth it. That week, Zara sat at the dining table, writing and deleting, stopping several times to wipe away tears, then typing again. I didn't read it until she handed me the device. Why I Didn't Speak Up Sooner. By Zara Williams, 16. She wrote briefly, directly, and sharply. The abuser knows how to present a perfect narrative. Adults easily trust a smile and neat clothes. 23 cries for help were completely erased, the fear of being sent somewhere even worse. That night, I thought I was going to die, and I made a choice. If I had to die, at least die trying. I called 911, hit record, and did the one thing my mother taught me. Your voice matters. At the end of the piece, she sent a message to the children who were silent. If the first person doesn't believe you, tell the second, and then the third, until someone listens. I hugged her tightly. I am so proud of you. Mom, I want to post it on the school blog, under the Student Voices section. Are you sure? Going public will be difficult. I'm ready. The post went up on Friday. By the evening, it had 500 views. By Sunday, 5,000. On Monday, the media calls flooded in. I refused all of them. Zara looked at me, calm. Maybe I'm ready to put a face to the story. When other kids see a survivor standing up, they'll know they can survive too. And I realized my daughter was no longer a fearful child. She was becoming a warrior. One article, a new protocol named after Zara, and a wave of attention was approaching. Next, facing the media, the meeting with the school, and what will Caleb say when the truth forces him to look straight ahead? Don't look away. Who protects Zara when the story goes public? The first interview took place in a small studio in Center City. Sarah Chen of NBC 10 sat at eye level with Zara before filming. You have every right to stop at any time. Your story is important, and I respect your courage. I saw Zara exhale softly in relief. The lights came on. Zara wore a navy blue sweater, her hair cleverly covering some scrapes, but not the scar on her forehead. That's evidence, she had said that morning. Sarah began gently. How did the night you called 911 unfold? Zara recounted it concisely. The stone counter, her hair being yanked, the feeling that she might die, the decision to hit record and call 911. Were you scared? Yes, I was. Zara gave a small smile. But I was more afraid of doing nothing. What is your message for young people in similar situations? Zara looked directly into the camera. It is not your fault. Speak up to someone who will listen. If the first person doesn't believe you, find the second. Don't give up. You deserve to be safe. The segment aired that evening. Messages poured in. Colleagues, neighbors, and strangers. Then one message made me freeze. My name is Maya. I'm 14. I saw Zara on TV. My dad is hurting me. I'm afraid no one will believe me. Can you help me? I called immediately. The girl's voice was trembling. I asked her to call 911, send her address, and race to South Philly with Detective Natasha Green and a social worker. 2 hours later, Maya was led out of the apartment, clutching a small backpack, a bruise still visible on her cheek. Seeing me, she rushed forward and hugged me tight. You actually came. You are safe now, I said. Detective Green informed me that her father had been arrested, and Maya would temporarily stay with a safe foster family. Returning home that night, I told Zara. She went silent, then asked quietly, Did I actually help someone? Yes, because you spoke up, Maya called. One face daring to speak the truth had saved another face. But when the story goes public, what will keep the next children safe? Kindness, protocol, or the law? A week later, the the Safe Harbor organization contacted us. Linda Torres invited Zara to be their youth ambassador, to share when ready, advise on policy, and accompany them in media outreach. Zara asked directly, "Can I change the law so other kids don't have to go through what I did?" We are lobbying for a bill that mandates the review of audio recordings, video footage, and medical records for all child abuse reports, mandatory training for police to recognize signs of abuse, and requiring interviews with children to be conducted by trauma specialists. "If you agree, we want to call it the Zara Act," said Ms. Torres. I reminded her, "You are not obligated to do anything." Zara shook her head. "I want to do it." A month later, at the Philadelphia City Council, Zara wore a navy suit, holding a speech she had revised 5 times. I sat in the front row, my heart pounding. Zara began, "I am Zara Williams, 16 years old, a survivor of domestic abuse." The system failed when, that night, the police believed my abuser simply because she was a poised adult, while I was a bloodied child. If it weren't for the audio recording, I might be in a juvenile detention center today. The Zara Act proposes 3 things. 1. All 911 calls regarding child abuse must be investigated based on evidence, not just verbal testimonies. 2. Mandatory training for all frontline law enforcement personnel. 3. Interviews with children must be conducted by trauma specialists. Please do not wait until another child has to ask, "Why did no one believe me?" The hearing room was silent. Then one person clapped. Then everyone stood up. Marcus Johnson, the city council commissioner, wiped his eyes. "We will vote next week. I believe it will be passed unanimously. Thank you for changing this city." Driving across the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, Zara looked out at the lights. "I'm not scared anymore," she said softly. "I know," I smiled. "It's not that the nightmares have stopped," she continued, "but that I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a survivor, and that makes a huge difference." I squeezed her hand. "Yes, a huge difference." As night falls over West Philly, I watch Zara sleep peacefully after months of fighting her own fears. She is no longer hiding in the shadows. She stood up, raised her voice, and became a light for the children who haven't yet dared to speak. And I understood one thing: courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward, even when your legs are trembling. If my family's story has touched you, even just a little, I hope you will keep it in your heart. Remember that anyone can be a life raft for a child desperately clinging to survival. And if you wish to continue accompanying us on these real stories, these journeys of healing, these moments of rising from the ashes, then hit subscribe to the channel, click the tiny bell next to it, so that every time we tell another story, you will be the first to hear the call. Thank you for staying until the end. See you in the next journey, where every story is a truth that needs to be told.